Now it's my privilege to introduce our second speaker, Mrs. Nicole Ameline. Mrs. Nicole Ameline is chair of CEDAW, the Committee on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. She is a member of French Parliament, and particularly a member of Foreign Affairs Committee, also a member of the National Consultative Commission on Human Rights in France. She was 3 times minister in the French government. I would say she dedicated her life to the cause of women's rights and equality. She's also appointed ambassador on the issue of gender and delegate of France to the international labor organizations. She led several actions in the field of equal rights. She participated in many international conferences, conducted many appraisals on this. I say no more. She's really a leading figure in the area. So please, Mrs. Ameline, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But first of all, thank you very much, dear Chair, dear Sun Yun Yun, to have organized this so fantastic event. And thank you to everybody. Thank you for your support. On behalf of CEDAW Committee, I'm very proud to see you and to know how you are close to our work. And thank you, Excellency. It's always very pleasant to hear a man speaking with so much talent about women. So I would like, in a few words, precise that the CEDAW Convention is, of course, for all of us. And you have said it, and thank you again. The most universal, relevant instrument to promote and to preserve women's rights. And I think, and I'm very happy to see that we can today support the call of UN Women, and I thank Mrs. Puri, who is present here with us, to get a standalone goal, of course, in the context of the new agenda and also a gender mainstreaming approach. It's very important, and I know that we can take into account your own commitment on that for the next days and at the opening of the CSW, because it's so important to get in mind that progress is not guaranteed today in the world. Women remain the first victims of violences, sufferings, and violences. But in the same time, they are the main drivers, the main forces of the sustainable development. And it's time now to evaluate the cost of inequality, the social, economic, political cost. We have just a few months ago adopted a very important recommendation, number 30, about women in conflicts. And we know absolutely that women are the main force of peace, of democracy, and we have to keep in mind that we have not just to eradicate violences, but we have to empower women now. And I think that the new agenda is the next step, maybe our last chance to reach a complete and effective equality. And I just want to say 3 things. First of all, it's true that cities, some of them, are a very, very good example. When we have our constructive dialogue with different countries, we use to ask to the country, to the state party, how the national machinery is working. National machinery is the legislative and constitutional framework, but not only. It's also the global effort of the country in terms of administrative framework, organization of local authorities, but also training judges, police officers, and also gender budgeting. And I insist upon the fact that each country is, in the context of accountability, redevable, oui, accountable of about what the country is doing in terms precisely of administrative organization and local authorities. And I'm former minister for local authorities in France, so I know perfectly that we can act on the ground, as you do. And I would like also insist upon the fact that we need now to face the most important challenge: equality de facto, and not only de jure. And it is, for me, maybe the most important goal. We have now to organize, to implement a concrete efficiency in the achievement of women's rights. We see a real progress in the global legislative architecture, but not enough on the ground in the reality, in the daily life. And in terms, for instance, of access to justice, we are going to elaborate a new recommendation to facilitate the access to justice, but to other rights, of course. The second point is that women have to share responsibilities, and we have to facilitate the access of women to decision-making at all levels of the political, economic life. It's true that we see in each country a lot of progresses in the role and place of women in private companies or a public organization, but it's not enough. And everywhere, even in the most developed countries, we see very few women really at the top level, and especially in political life. Women have really today to reach a new frontier in terms of political life. And personally, it's one of my priorities. And the third point concerns our capacity to reinforce the national capacity building. I think that the new agenda is a good opportunity to really to create a new coordination, a new cooperation close to state parties, to push them, to help them to elaborate the report for CEDAW, but not only for CEDAW, the strategies, or global strategy, including mainstreaming and, of course, gender budgeting. But also, we have to help them to implement the concluding observations of the CEDAW committee. It's absolutely crucial, because if not, we see that it's very difficult for them to be ready for the next periodic report, and we lose time. And at least I would like to conclude by women and data. We need, and I said it at the beginning of my speech, we need to evaluate the cost of inequality. And I think that the time is come now to have a new approach, a new statistic approach, to see precisely each country by each country, but also at the global level, how sustainable development can be driven with women, of course, with women's rights, but by evaluating the place and the role of women's rights in the growth, in the development, in the global development. And I think that it will be very good progress, to have new tools, new technologies to have this better perception. And thank you again to create this bridge between rights and development. What is the meaning of development without women's rights? I think that now women's rights maybe, can be, should be a sort of DNA of sustainable development, a sort of active principle. And with you, with a civil society that is for me the force of change, we can imagine to do it now. I think that millions of women are waiting for it, are waiting for you, are waiting for us. And we are ready to do that. We need to be united as we are today, but as we are every day for them. But first of all, for the sustainable development. Thank you.